Hello everyone. If you hear a clicking noise in the background, that's my heater at home trying to work to keep me warm. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the United States getting into World War I. We talked about the main MAIN causes of World War I, and now we're going to talk about how the United States got involved. So for your right into the day, I want you to answer the two questions. Who is the character pictured in this image, and what does he represent? And why do you think America would use something like this to get people to join the army? An interesting fact about this picture is that no matter where you are looking, the character is always looking at you, its eyes are always looking at you, and its finger is always pointing at you. So a way to test this out is you can move your laptop from side to side, up and down. You can stand up and take a couple steps back, and you'll notice that he really does follow you. And this is one of the tactics that we're going to talk about a little bit today, but definitely more later on, to get people to feel like they need to be involved in World War I. So, at the start of World War I, President Wilson said that the United States would remain neutral. Most Americans felt that the war did not concern them. So, he had the policy of strict and impartial neutrality, and Wilson also, well, impartial in thought as well as in action is one of his quotes. Also, to get reelected as president, one of his slogans was, "He kept us out of the war." And you'll see down here that we have peace in America, God bless Wilson, and then Wilson is put on a stamp there. The people really liked Wilson, and they really liked what he stood for, because they didn't want to get involved in the war. But we know that America does get involved. So what leads to this? So American companies, because they were neutral, they were able to sell to both sides. And American banks made large loans to the Allies. By the Allies, I'm talking about the Triple Entente. Triple Entente, remember, they can also be called the Allied Powers, okay? So, the Allies, or the Triple Entente, brought war materials from American companies. However, an Allied blockade prevented the United States from trading with the Central Powers. Central Powers is another way of saying Triple Alliance. So, basically, the United States said that they would trade with both sides. However, the Allies, being Britain, France, and Russia, they blockaded the ports so that the United States couldn't get into countries like Germany and Italy and Austria-Hungary. So, all of this selling, however, caused an economic boom in the United States. None of World War I was fought in the United States, so the United States was able to save a lot of money and make a lot of money by selling weapons and tanks and machinery all overseas. So why did the United States ultimately get involved? We're going to talk about 6 reasons why the United States got involved. Propaganda, unrestricted submarine warfare, the sinking of the Lusitania, economic gain, the Zimmerman telegram, and the Russian Revolution. The first reason is propaganda. So both sides, the Central Powers, or the Triple Alliance, and the Triple Entente, or the Allied Powers, they both used propaganda. Propaganda is information, usually a poster or image, presented to support a specific political view. The Allied Powers, or the Triple Entente, would call the Germans Huns, which was basically a way of saying that they were barbarians, and that they were savage, and they were less than human. But propaganda was also used by the Central Powers, or the Triple Alliance. This is a prime example of World War I propaganda, where it says, "Destroy this mad brute, enlist," in the U.S. Army. So this was something that would be seen all over the place in the United States. And we see a German soldier is depicted as an ape, and on his hat you'll notice it says militarism. And then he's holding a damsel who is another very popular image, like Uncle Sam in propaganda, representing America. And you can see that she is in a lot of trouble, and the German ape is going to destroy her. So propaganda shows a really powerful image to get you to do something. It's kind of like an advertisement, only in this case it's a still picture. The second reason is unrestricted submarine warfare. So we kind of talked about this a little bit when we talked about militarism, but in order to stop the United States' aid to the Triple Entente, or the Allied powers, Germany said that it would use its U-boats on ships that entered or left British ports. U-boats are submarines. So the Germans would come around with their U-boats and they would shoot American ships. And the United States was really angry about this because the United States was losing a lot of money. Also, the US was willing to trade with Germany, but they weren't allowed to because of the blockade. Another reason is the sinking of the Lusitania. And on May 7th, 1915, a German U-boat torpedoed a British passenger liner, the RMS Lusitania. On this ship, 128 Americans were killed. And this led to Americans becoming completely outraged. They were really, really angry with the Germans. So the United States doubles the size of their army, and they begin to prepare or mobilize for war. So Germany ends unrestricted submarine warfare because of this, because they're realizing that America is starting to look like they're going to get involved in the war. This is a notice that the German embassy released to people like Great Britain and the United States. And it says, "Notice, travelers intending to embark on the Atlantic voyage are reminded that a state of war exists between Germany and her allies and Great Britain and her allies, that the zone of war includes the waters adjacent to the British Isles, that, in accordance with formal notice given by the Imperial German government, vessels flying the flag of Great Britain or of any of her allies are liable to destruction in those waters, and that travelers sailing in the war zone on ships of Great Britain or her allies do so at their own risk." So this was a public statement that Germany gave saying that we are at war and we are going to attack anybody from Great Britain or anybody that's an ally with Great Britain. So if you are coming in the waters by Great Britain and you're a British ally, you're traveling at your own risk. So they considered the United States a British ally. Here is a popular New York Times article that was printed shortly after the Lusitania was sunk. The fourth reason is because of economic reasons. So American banks ended up giving loans to the Allied powers, or the Triple Entente, and they were worried that if the Allies were to lose the war, they couldn't repay their loans. So the American banks wanted the United States to get involved because they wanted the Allies to win so that they would be able to get their money back. The fifth reason for involvement is the Zimmermann telegram. So Germany was worried that the United States would join the war. So Germany sends a telegram called the Zimmermann telegram to Mexico. And the note was intercepted by Great Britain. So the note said that Germany and Mexico would form an alliance against the United States. And if the Mexicans attacked the United States, Germans would help them regain lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. So this made America really, really angry because it felt like the Germans were directly attacking the United States, and they were willing to try to get people in Mexico to fight against the United States. So, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare eventually, and the United States merchant ships began to be sunk again. So basically, when the Germans lifted unrestricted submarine warfare, the United States are basically officially part of the war at this point, and they are against the Germans. They're on the side of the Triple Entente, or the Allied powers. Here is an example. This is the Zimmerman telegram. This part is the most important part, the part in red, where it says, "We make Mexico a proposal of alliance on the following basis: make war together, make peace together, generous financial support, and an understanding on our part that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The settlement in detail is left to you." So, again, it's saying that if Mexico attacks the United States, then Germany will come and agree to back Mexico up. The sixth reason is the Russian Revolution. So what would a Russian Revolution have to do with the United States getting involved? Well, Russia has a very interesting history. The Russian people overthrew the monarchy and Tsar Nicholas II. So because of this, Russia withdraws from the war because it's dealing with its own problems within Russia. So Wilson said that the world needs to be safe for democracy, since the other Allied powers in the Triple Entente, besides Russia, were both democracies. So now Wilson says that there's a reason for the United States to get involved with the war, and that reason is going to be democracy. So ultimately, America enters the war. On April 6, 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. In the United States, we have the Selective Service Act, which established a military draft. And the first American soldiers reached France in June of 1917. When the United States entered the war, it actually helped turn the war around. And again, here's that famous picture of Uncle Sam. This would be an example of propaganda in the United States that spread all over the place for people to get involved in the war. So how did Americans react to U.S. entry into World War I? I want you to now watch this video. It's a song, and I want you to watch this video and listen to the song and look at the lyrics that I'm giving you. And then I want you to think about I want you to think about if you were making a claim that America was enthusiastic or excited about entering into the war. Do you think that the song would be a reliable source to support your claim? And then explain why or why not.